My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm your first friend in Alaska. Luckily for you, I'm an associate real estate broker in South Central Alaska, and today we're talking about the words that you hear Alaskans use where you may or may not know exactly what it is that they're talking about. So we'll get into that today and we'll make you sound like a complete pro when you get up here. Before we get started though, give this video a like, subscribe, and let's go and jump into today's video. All right, let's start off with something really simple and basic here, and that is sourdough. So you hear the word sourdough referred to someone who has lived in Alaska for a long time, or at a minimum, at least one winter. I'm sorry, snowbirds, if you've just come up here for a bunch of summers. That still doesn't count as being a sourdough. You got to get through the actual winter in order for that to count. All right, so this next term, you may or may not hear this when you first get up here, and this is a Chicho. Now, this refers to someone who is new in Alaska. So if you're new up here, don't be surprised if you hear this a time or two, but that's all it means. All right, moving beyond the basics here, let's talk about Muskeg. Now, Muskeg, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like a really swampy, you're going to find this when you're in really like watery, almost swampy areas. And it's like a layer of earth, but it's like walking on a waterbed. That's the best way to explain it, where the surface, the ground itself, it's not breaking, but it's like walking on a waterbed. And you get this in a lot of places, like in the Matsu Valley. You get further out to like the Big Lake area, really like the Nancy Lake area, you start running into this. But the ground is like it's kind of giving beneath you. And I was walking on it one time before while moose hunting, and the thought hit me. It's like, this ground breaks. I have no clue like how deep the water is beneath me. Like that's kind of a sobering thought. So for a lot of places that has a lot of muskeg, concern is obviously, getting stuck places. You have a four-wheeler or something. I'm definitely not going to be driving on that stuff. But that being said though, during the winter time, it becomes very traversable because everything freezes and you can just get across it just fine. But during the summertime, just be aware, muskeg means kind of proceed with caution. All right. Next term is going to be permafrost. So what permafrost is it kind of means the ground is, frosty permanently. Maybe that's the best way of thinking about it. It really is ground you're going to find further up in like the Arctic Circle, where the top level might be thawed out, but there's always the underlying layer that is always and continuously and for always going to be frozen. And that's what permafrost is. So it's really not at the top level, you're going to be just fine, like I said, but it's really not going to be very, get further down, it's not going to be very thawed out. So, that's just something really to be aware of once you get further up north. And I think that's actually the reason you don't get a whole lot of vegetation or big trees or anything like that, because, the ground is just so frozen, beyond the topsoil level. Frost heaving. So what frost heaving is this is where the ground thaws out and it freezes and it thaws out, and it's constantly doing this freezing and contraction with the freezing and the thawing. And what this can actually do is it can actually create ripples in the ground itself, which kind of cool to see from a distance. Not so much if the frost heaves is happening right in the middle of a road or your driveway for that matter. And, frost heaves, you're really going to learn firsthand what this means if you're driving the Alaskan, because like that last 100 or 200 miles or so, it's a lot of frost heaves, and you're probably going to be going like maybe tops of like 40 miles per hour, just because the ground is just like a bunny hill. There's just so many heaves up in the road. So just know, yes, when you see frost heave, that's what they're talking about. Just read into it. You should probably slow down whatever it is that you're doing. Termination dust. So I am not sure if this is a term specific to Alaska, but what it means is when you look up on the mountains, it's not snow. So usually it's around October or September, you're going to start seeing this. It's like frost up on the mountains, and it just gets lower and lower and lower and lower. And it's not quite snow just yet, but every morning it feels like you can see that frost just getting lower and lower on the mountain line. And back in the good old days, well, back in the old days with the miners and the gold rush and everything, they'd look up, they'd see the termination dust starting to form on the mountains, and they know, hey, it's time to get out of Dodge. Snow is not too far away. All right, this next term, Extratus. Again, I'm not sure if this is a specifically Alaskan word, but it is definitely a word you're going to hear quite a bit when you're in Alaska. These are kind of warm. Imagine them as like just really warm, durable rain boots. They do keep your feet pretty dry, which if you're trying to stay warm, that is going to be paramount. And they do have a lot of good insulation in them. Well, they've started designing them recently, so they do have pretty good insulation. So they do keep your feet pretty warm too. I know Alaska is not officially sponsored by any clothing line or gear, but if we did, it would probably be Extratus. But let's go and take a break here real quick. For those of you who are considering making a move up here and want to learn more information, feel free to get a copy of my relocation guide. And how you get access to that is you just go to my website. Link for that is in the description section down below. Go ahead and register to that. And then in the comment section, make sure you put relocation guide so I know what to send you. And also make sure to include your phone number as well, just so I can answer any questions directly that you might have. Also, this is just kind of a reminder real quick, kind of a PSA. I do in fact make my actual income off of helping people buy and sell real estate. So if you're considering making a move up here and you see all my videos and podcasts and you think, well, he's too busy to actually, to help us, so let's just not bug him, please go ahead and bug me. Okay, that's how I actually make my income. I'm very strategic in how and the time that I use to create this content in order to make sure that I have enough time to actually help people. So no, you're not bugging me. Reach out. I'm not too busy to help you. Okay, got that out of the way. Let's go and finish up today's video. Okay, another term that you probably have already heard is the lower 48. Now, the lower 48 just means continental 48 states of the U.S. or, lower 48. So it's pretty much just the continental U.S. That's kind of something that Alaska and Hawaii have in common, that we're not kind of isolated. We're pretty dadgum isolated. We're not as isolated as Hawaii, but we're kind of getting there. Yeah. So for that reason, they call in Hawaii, they consider the continental U.S. The mainland, I believe is what they call it. And in Alaska, we just call it the lower 48. All right, getting into some more words here. Denali. This is an Alaska Native word, and it just means the Great One, which if you've seen Denali before, you can see exactly why they called it that. It is absolutely incredible. All right, looking into some more niche words, specifically to this area, Wasilla. Now, Wasilla is obviously a town in the Matsu Valley. It's one of the most up-and-coming, developing areas in the entire state. And it's kind of hard hearing exactly where the word Wasilla came from. There's some etymology that would say that it comes from the Denali word, which Alaska Native dialect for, I think it's breath of air, which makes sense because there's so much wind that can come and go, like through the Matsu Valley and Wasilla. Or it might also come from the Russian word for Vasily, which means William. So maybe it was named after somebody, William, who was trapping back in the day here. I don't know for sure, but those are the two best theories that we have at the moment. I'm kind of leaning more towards the Denali etymology of the word, but I could be wrong. The next on our list is Taletna. Now, Taletna is its own kind of animal. It's up the Parks Highway. It's about halfway between Anchorage and Denali National Park, and it's kind of a little hippie town. It's got a lot of charm to it. I've made a video kind of talking a little bit about some of the unique Alaska towns out there that are just gems, and Taletna is definitely one of them. But the word Taletna itself comes from the word the word itself comes from the Denali dialect, and it means where the rivers meet, which makes sense because it's right there at the confluence of three main rivers there in the area. So not a lot of surprises there. All right, last but not least, where does the word Matanuska come from? Now, we've got the Matanuska Valley, or the Matsu Valley as it's more commonly known as, but I was just kind of curious, where did the word Matanuska come from to begin with? Because I don't know about you, I I did not really grow up with Matanuska being a really common household word that I would use. Really, the best theory I could find is it comes from the Russian word Matanuski. Okay, now what Matanuski means is people of the Copper River. So yeah, that's kind of what the theory is there, and I believe the Copper River would be the Matanuska River, might be the Connect River. Probably not. Probably the Matanuska River. You know, kind of makes sense because they named the river that when they're talking about people of the river. So yeah, that totally makes sense. But this has been my video kind of talking about some of those common Alaskan words you're going to hear and a little bit about their background and some of the history there. Hope it was informative, maybe a little entertaining. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.